I'm Salome Tigrai and I'll be with you for today's news. Stay tuned. In a briefing on Monday, member of Tigray Central Command Getachew Reda said that cessation of hostilities can only be ensured where its sustainability is guaranteed. Getachew also said that cessation of hostilities should be taken seriously and that an escape way when one's forces are pressured.
I wouldn't be surprised if Abiy all of a sudden comes up with the whole notion of unilateral cessation of hostilities. I don't think we'll be stupid enough to take the bait here. We have to make sure that if cessation of hostilities agreement has come about, it needs to be clearly worked out. It needs to be guaranteed by people who can say yes and no to our decisions. It needs to take into account our needs. It needs to be taken seriously, not something that is based on the capricious decision of a tyrant or a sort of smart alecky move that's going to be used as an exhaust valve if the pressure mounts on its forces. We are standing our ground in many areas. We are launching a counteroffensive, and I wouldn't be surprised if Abiy all of a sudden wakes up one Friday morning and tells the world that he has, or it could be Sunday, for all I care, and say something along that line. What's the point of having caused the loss and destruction, the loss of lives and destruction of property in a needless war, and once again to come out and claim to be magnanimous but let's not jump the gun. The point is, if there is going to be cessation of hostilities, it needs to be something that is going to be seriously worked out and guaranteed by people who can say yes and no to the two sides, and something that can and should bring about the realistic possibility of peaceful resolution to the conflict.
Getachew also stated that Eritrean forces have fully engaged in the war on Tigray and that Tigrayan forces are fighting with the joint army of the Ethiopian and Eritrean forces.
The Eritreans are involved, and you ask me about the level of the extent of their involvement. They are involved big time. They have deployed their mechanized units, infantry units, they are special force units, commando units, and everything. So what's left for Eritreans to do? Except that there is every indication that the Eritreans often use the Ethiopian soldiers as cannon fodders. Here is a conflagration which has already been internationalized. And Isaias and Abiy are attacking our positions in Barakat, and they are blaming the Sudanese. The Sudanese are nowhere to be found there. Our forces are in Tigray, within Tigray, and they are attacking those positions. And our forces, despite their modest number, I would say, are holding up very well. But the international community needs to understand that it's not a simple conflict between the TPLF or the Tigray government and Abiy Ahmed. It is a conflict that has attracted the full involvement of the Eritrean army. The Eritrean army is not making a foray into Tigray for the first time. It has been around for quite some time. In fact, it has occupied Tigray territory for well over 2 years now. What we have at stake is an entire Ethiopian military trying its luck to break our resistance. It is an entire Eritrean army trying its luck to break our resistance. And if they are allowed to get away with it, to get their way, that would mean Isaias will be playing a more devastating and more dangerous role in the entire region. And Abiy, once again, will have an opportunity to finish off to pick up where he left off when he was forced out of most of Tigray, and to finish off the people of Tigray.
Speaking about the involvement of the Ethiopian Airlines in the war on Tigray, Getachew said that it had become an instrument in the genocidal campaign against the people of Tigray. Getachew also added that this would backfire on the airlines and the reputation it had built over the years.
And about 5 days ago, in 3 days' time, Ethiopian Airlines was able to conduct about 30-something flights to Lalibela and Samara, transporting munitions as well as elite Republican Guard units. It's very unfortunate. These elite units and the weapons they are carrying are meant to kill children, to kill women. Ethiopian Airlines, quite simply, has become an instrument of promoting a genocidal campaign against the people of Tigray. And it's not just about genocide against the people of Tigray. And the very young soldiers that are being transported and that are now becoming cannon fodders in our efforts to defend ourselves, Ethiopian Airlines, I would say, has their blood in its hands as well. The way the Ethiopian Airlines is handling its business will not only destroy the airlines itself, but also give the airline industry a very bad name. At this age and day, to have an acclaimed, internationally acclaimed airlines being complicit with the destruction of children, civilians, and a genocidal campaign that is being authored by Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki would be an absolute abomination as far as we're concerned. We call on the international community to call a spade a spade. The Ethiopian Airlines is now fully involved in promoting the genocidal campaign against the people of Tigray. Shame on you, executives of the Ethiopian Airlines, who either fail to say no or who are complicit with Abiy's genocidal campaign.
You're watching Tigray television. In spite of international protocols and conventions it signed, the Ethiopian government has kept on using underage soldiers from different parts of the country on its recent attack on Tigray. Recently captured underage prisoners of war say that they were forcibly conscripted and were taken while they were on their way to school. Minta Kidan has more.
Ethiopia is one of the 172 countries that has signed and ratified the optional protocol on forbidding the involvement of children in armed conflicts. The protocol that was agreed upon to be in effect on 12th of February 2002 proposes that states will not recruit or conscript children under the age of 18 to send them to the battlefield. Despite the signed protocol and other domestic and international laws and proclamations, the Ethiopian government has kept on using underaged children in its recent attack on Tigray. Underage prisoners of war from the southern front say that they were recruited forcibly while they were on their way to school.
አበባው በላይ ወንድም ነው ይባላል። የመጣሁት ከወለጋ ነው። 15 ዓመቴ አምስተኛ ክፍል ነበር የምባለው። ወደ ትምህርት ቤት ስንሄድ ነው ትምህርት ቤት ስንሄድ በዛ ዙሪያው ታዲያ ለማን ብሎ ብዙ ሰው ነው ያመጡት ዙሪያው እስከዛ ማለት ነው።
የኔ ስም መሐመድ ዩሱፍ ይባል 16 ዓመት ነው። እኔ በፍላጎት አልመጣም ሲደመር 5 ሰዓት የት ነው ወጣ አንተ ይላል ያዛል። ከዛ ወደ እንትኑ ገባ እዛ ላይ ሰለጠና ገባ።
ስሜ ሙልቀን ወዲያጄ መኮንን ይባላል። የመጣሁበት አካባቢ ከደቡብ ወሎ እድሜ 17 ዓመት በታይም ላይም አለ። የመጣንበት ምክንያት ትምህርት ቤት ምናምን ይሄል ከዚያ እንዲ ተከበብን። ከዚያ ወደ እንትን ወሰዱን። አላወቅንም ነበር ለስር ነበር የመሰለን። ከዚያ እንትን በመኪና ማሰልጠኛ ወሰዱን አሰለጠኑን። ወደዚህ አቀላቀሉን ማለት ነው።
The captured children soldiers also say that they were given hateful pictures of Tigrayans, but the reality with the Tigray army proves them wrong as they were treated kindly.
ካዘ መጥፎ ነው ትግራይ አታስቀርቡ ነው የሚሉን ማለት ነው። ትግራይ ማለት እንደዚህ ዝግመተን ስናየው ልክ እንደ አባትና እንደ እናት ናቸው። ተንከባክበው ካያዙን ካሰጠና ጀምረን ራሱ ሁሉ ነገር ነው እዛ ያገኘነውን የሰጡን ማለት ይቻላል።
ነሐሴ 21 2014 ኦቦ እኛ እናቅም አሁን ለራሴ ለኛ ይነግሩንም እዛው ሄዱ ነው የሚሉት።
አባትናቶች፣ ወንድሞች፣ እህቶች፣ ዘመዶች ምናምን ናቸው የሚናፍቁኝ ማለት ነው።
The testimonial of these children soldiers in the Ethiopian army suggests that children in general are being abused by being forced to be soldiers and to engage in war, particularly in the Tigray war, by the Ethiopian government in the time of their innocent and constructive ages when they should be protected and taken care of.
In his brief stay with Tigray Television's Maqala Foresight, Executive Director of the World Peace Foundation and Research Professor at Fletcher School of Global Affairs of Taft University, Alex Dowal, stated that Eritrea needs to pull its hands from the war on Tigray for a peaceful resolution to the conflict.
On his brief stay with Maqala Foresight, Alex Dowal, Executive Director of the World Peace Foundation and Research Professor at the Fletcher School of Global Affairs, Taft University, discussed on the current situation in Tigray and Eritrea's invasion of Tigray territories. On his interview, Alex highlighted that Isaiah's intention is to see Ethiopia weakened in general and specifically to see Tigray eliminated as a political entity.
Well, what Isaiah wants to do is to have Ethiopians kill one another. He wants, and in the early weeks of the war, it looked as though his ideal scenario was playing out. The TPLF was almost wiped out, and the Ethiopian National Defense Force was destroyed in the meantime as a workable institution. So he was getting his way, and he wants to see that happen again.
Alex says that the word genocide is nowhere more applicable than in Tigray.
I think if there's any case in the contemporary world where the term genocide is applicable, it would be Tigray. I think that if the State Department investigation into what was happening in Tigray, the report was completed 13 months ago. If that were to be unveiled, I think we would probably see the conclusion of the investigation is that there is a case to answer. As you say, the acts constitutive of genocide have been committed, and the intent is there, at least among some of the key perpetrators.
Alex also noted that there can be no peace process until Eritrea is fully withdrawn from Tigray and out of the picture of the Ethiopian political affairs. He also says that Abiy's commitment for a peaceful resolution of the conflict is tactical and opportunistic rather than a genuine and strategic desire for peace.
There has been a general understanding that as part of the peace process, Eritrea has to withdraw. But until such time as Eritrea is not only withdrawn from Ethiopia and from Tigray especially, but also completely and verifiably out of the picture, there can be really no peace process between Tigray and Addis Ababa. And the reason for this is that however much Abiy might be committed to peace, and my own view is that his commitment is only tactical and opportunistic, it is not genuine and strategic. But even if he were genuinely committed to peace, he would not be able to achieve that peace without the consent and the cooperation of Isaias Afwerki.
Regarding the recent outbreak of hostilities, Alex says that Isaias has played an equal role as Abiy upon instigating the war on Tigray.
I think what we can say with some confidence is that Isaias Afwerki has been exercising a veto over any attempt to any possibility of resolving the war in Tigray. And until that veto is resolved, we have to say Isaias is at the minimum a co-equal actor along with Abiy in instigating the war. It's hard to say who really is driving this car. But if we would want to say that Abiy has his hands on the steering wheel, it is Isaias who is there in the instructor's seat, with that emergency brake, who is able to either stop it or prevent it from stopping.
Finally, Alex cautioned that for a real peace process to be possible, a definitive removal of Eritrea from Tigray and an end to the starvation perpetrated through siege needs to happen immediately.
I think the number one and number two factors are the definitive removal of Eritrea from the equation. Not promises, not bland assurances, oh, Eritreans will withdraw. We need a definitive removal of Eritrea with some robust, truly robust international guarees. And if those guarantees aren't forthcoming, then there will be no end to this conflict. There may just be another lull before the fighting resumes. The second, I think, is there has to be a definitive, guaranteed end to this starvation siege.
An Ethiopian soldier who was recently surrendered to Tigrayan forces said that he has witnessed a massacre of dozens of Tigrayan civilians under the hands of Eritrean soldiers during the period of occupation. The prisoner of war also stated that he wishes to see a negotiated end to the conflict. Abraha ገብረትንሳኤ reports.
This young man is called Misganao Sleshi. He is now held captive in Mekelle city after having surrendered himself to TDF last week at Kobo, Southern Front. He says he witnessed one of the most gruesome massacres perpetrated by Eritrean forces on civilian residents at the towns of Aksum and Adwa in November 2020.
I witnessed massacres of civilians with my own eyes. I saw Eritreans killing civilians, including Shusha boys, on the streets indiscriminately. I had the chance to visit Aksum Referral Hospital, and I had friends there. I saw many civilian casualties there, some of them amputated and others wounded, shot on their limbs and other parts of their bodies.
The war prisoner also says that he feels awfully sad by the fact that the Ethiopian government invited foreign soldiers who were once labeled enemies and for having to be the one that opened the doors for them to kill civilians mercilessly.
The big mistake, I think, is inviting someone who was once labeled enemy and using them as an instrument to kill around people. It is a pity to witness that. We all know that massacres were perpetrated in Tigray by the Eritrean forces.
Misganao also expressed his dismay on the resumption of the war after months of relief following the declaration of humanitarian truce. He adds that he and his comrades have been waiting for the peace dialogue to work, but not for the resumption of yet another deadly war. Misganao regrets the fact that they ended up in another war and he chose to surrender to the Tigray forces without even firing a single bullet in his magazine.
To be honest with you, many of the soldiers do not have the passion to fight against the Tigray defense forces. I see them listening to the radio, even being inside their fortresses, anxiously waiting to be told that the negotiation is going well. They were eagerly waiting for the conflict to end and to breathe a sigh of relief. I know many of those who had such high hopes by name. Everybody wants this conflict to be resolved through peaceful dialogue.
The war prisoner emphasized the ugliness of war and advised everyone to put down their guns and sit around a table for a peaceful negotiation, believing that war is severely destructive.
War cannot benefit anyone. I want war to be eliminated from the world if possible, but it doesn't seem to be possible. Ours is even bizarre. It is shameful to kill one another. I have witnessed the ugliness of the war, but I don't know how to show this to my fellow Ethiopians. I wish I could do some documentary and show it to you all. It is really bad. I would like to advise anyone who decides to join the Ethiopian National Defense Forces to think critically. I don't wish this on anyone.
One of the most gruesome aspects of the ongoing siege has been the discontinuation of banking services. For more than 14 months now, Tigrayans have not been able to access their savings, putting millions in crisis. Pensioners are among those highly affected by the ongoing siege, with many being forced to the brink. Our reporter Argawi ገብረሚካኤል spoke to Asafa Hagos, a pensioner who is finding everyday life difficult.
Asafa Hagos is a pensioner who used to support his family by selling sheep and chickens before the start of the war on Tigray by the Ethiopian government and its allies. However, After the war and the siege that followed it, Asafa couldn't able to get his pension salary for more than a year now, and as a result, he is no longer able to pursue his previous business.
I
used to buy and sell sheep and chickens before the start of the war. In addition, I had my pension salary to support my family. But currently, I could no longer get my pension and couldn't be able to pursue my business. So the responsibility of taking care of the family has fallen on the shoulders of my wife, who washes clothes for other people.
Asafa says that he used to live in an old house along with his children. Apparently, as a result of this year's rainy season that has gotten very heavy, his house has fallen down on him while he was sleeping at home alone.
I was sleeping alone at home when the house fell apart. My wife and the children were not at home. It is people who managed to dig me out and brought me back from where I was buried alive. All my belongings were also buried, and the only belongings I have now left are the clothes that I'm wearing. Thus, I'm forced to share a shelter with dogs as I have nowhere else to go.
Asafa also told us that he has money saved up at the National Bank of Ethiopia. However, he couldn't be able to use it in his time of desperation for the reason that basic services like banking and telecommunication services in Tigray have been permanently terminated by the Ethiopian government for over a year now.
I have a saving at the bank and I used to use it in rainy days previously, but now I couldn't access it after banking services were terminated in Tigray. Currently, my health is also highly compromised and I am not getting my medications for my high blood pressure, which I used to get for free in health centers because they're running out of medical supplies.
Millions in Tigray are suffering from lack of basics as the Ethiopian government is determined to tighten the siege and terminate basic services like banking, telecommunication and electricity.
You've been watching Tigray Television's English news live on your television screens as well as on our social media platforms, YouTube and Facebook. That's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.